went to VF-92, the Silver Kings, as a replacement pilot to the America on Yankee Station. And I actually flew in the morning on a cod, went into the ready room, met the skipper, and he said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Great." And he said, "That's good. We're a little short on pilots. That's why you're here. If you're up for it, we'll brief in an hour, and we'll be vigilante escort into North Vietnam." I thought that sounded pretty exciting and interesting. I was introduced to my Rio, and so an hour after that, we were banging into the air. So we came back and we landed, nice trap, and Bombardier navigator for the Vigilante was talking, and he said, as we approached the target area, we encountered severe AAA that was virtually obstructing the target area. And I'm going, oh my goodness, that's what that was. And then he said, and then they fired 2 SAMs at Kite 2. Fortunately, they went off under his airplane and didn't damage him. And I looked at my Rio and I said, did we have warnings for a SAM launch? And he said, yeah, sure, the full set of warnings, and they launched on us just like the textbook. And I never saw a thing. I didn't see the SAMs, I didn't hear the warnings. It was a very scary thing, and I probably should have been dead. So then 196 missions later, and now we're on the USS Constellation in May of 1972. And on this mission, they've just introduced linebacker. We've been mining the harbors. The Constellation's flying 3 Alpha strikes a day. I'm on the first strike and the third strike. And on the first strike, I'm going to be MIGCAP for the strike group going into a petroleum storage area south of Haiphong. My flight lead, Austin Hawkins, accelerates through the flight group, and we go and position ourselves between the strike force and the intended threat environment. And as it turned out, we were 15 miles away from the target, and we can see people rolling in on the target. There were some 100-millimeter air bursts bursting big black clouds out around us, and so we had to move a little farther in, a little farther north. About that time, the Red Crown broadcast on guard, bandits, blue bandits, 040 at 40. We knew that meant that there were MiG-21s coming out of Kep Air Base, which was about 40 miles north of us at the time. And so we motored north and went into Kep Air Base at about 4,000 feet. I was on the left side. I'm looking at the runway as it's coming down. I see 2 MiG-21s holding short. I see MiG-17s and MiG-19s in revetments beside the runway. And about that time, my Rio calls out MiG-21s on the roll, and I look back on the runway, and there's 2 MiG-21s in a section takeoff. With our fighter tactics, I was in the best position to execute the attack, so I called Kite 2's got the lead, burner now, in place port, and our two airplanes flipped down and went into a steep dive heading for the end of the runway. As we went down, we leveled off at about 50 feet going down the runway, and sure enough, there's 2 MiG-21s right in front of me, at which point they both broke and went into a hard port turn, very low, under 50 feet. I'm lifting my wings to go over the tops of taller trees as we try and saddle into a half mile behind them and get into a good Sidewinder shot. Came around one, I'm dodging a tree and picking out, and I squeeze a Sidewinder off. Takes about 6 minutes. Actually took 4 seconds, but it seems like an eternity for that Sidewinder to come off the rail. And the Sidewinder made a hard turn towards the inside of the circle, and I thought that it had gone stupid or lost a fin or something. And so I was just pulling in to shoot another one when the Sidewinder came back into the fight, and the two MiGs are there, and the Sidewinder came down and went right behind the second MiG and went off and sprayed a bunch of dust on the hill right behind him, but it didn't bring the MiG down. So we came around again. I pulled on again and shot a second Sidewinder. It did the same thing, went inside, got to a lead pursuit, came back, and right at the last minute it turned left and went up right up the tailpipe of the wingman. There's a big orange fireball, and two pieces of MiG came out and slammed into the ground, so there was no ejection opportunity. So now I had given the flight lead to Hawkins, but I thought I'd help him out a little bit if he wasn't. I had seen a couple Sidewinders go by, but nothing. So I pulled on and fired another Sidewinder, or what I thought was a Sidewinder, and it went out and did the same thing. And it just, the Sidewinders we were shooting at that time just didn't have the ability to make that last turn on a 7G target. But I did come in and fire one more, and that one went by and again knocked some trees down as we're going. So I needed to straighten out the flight lead. So I'm going to just lob a Sparrow in front of this MiG, and that'll make him turn, and we'll be able to shoot him with the Sidewinder. So I pulled up into him and did a barrel roll attack and came across the top, intending to come here and shoot the Sparrow. But as I got upside down, I'm upside down at about 150 feet, and I look over to my right side, and here's two MiG-21s coming in on us in an attack position. The two MiGs went right over the top of us, and we were doing about 1.2, which we knew that the MiG-21s that Vietnam was flying couldn't fly fast, couldn't fly supersonic below 10,000 feet. So we were feeling pretty comfortable and pretty safe until Jim McDivitt called, there's a MiG-21 coming up behind the flight lead. And so I called kites in place turn. We both turned up towards each other where we can get into a protective situation. The MiG fired an ATOL at Hawkins, and it pulled route and went off right underneath him, but it didn't affect him much, although it took out his radios when we were trying to call him. I, meanwhile, dropped back on the MiG, and I'm following him back to the west. And Jim McDivitt, bless his heart, says, "Kurt, what are your plans? We don't have any Sidewinders left, and we're down to 4,000 pounds of gas." I said, "You're right." So I just broke off and headed towards the coast. Went back and made a semi-normal carrier landing. Actually, Hawk took us into the lead, and he did a break, and I did a reverse, an aileron roll, and then came around and landed. So we got to, it was a big deal on the flight deck, just like all the movies. Everybody's all happy, but you're doing everything you need to do to stay alive in this very hostile environment.
See and hear other icons of naval aviation tell their stories in our smash hit documentary, Legends of Carrier Aviation, now streaming on Amazon and Tubi TV. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.